Hey, welcome back. My name is Julian Moses. This is my building of my understanding of the world. I figure it's a great opportunity to share this kind of stuff. So, three things you're going to take away this week. First of all, the EU's new AI Act, why it's important and how important it really is in the structure of AI. Microsoft and why we think of this kind of boring, slow moving company, but it's actually becoming one of the fastest moving companies in the world. And then the lesson that I learned this week, which is just send the email. Um, so, yeah, I guess the best place to start is at the beginning. So, this last week, the EU released its framework for developing AI regulation, rather. And basically, what is shown is that the EU is going to pass this massive regulation that limits the implications of AI in a couple categories. So, namely, social scoring, anything that meddles with elections, and where basically bias. So, like imagine resume checking that goes into kind of a higher risk bracket. Why is this important? Well, GDPR was the EU's legislation that was passed in I think 2015 and actually changed how was the reason that now we have all these cookie things that we have to click on when we're on the internet. It actually was the front runner for the CCPR, which is the California Data Privacy Act, and has actually affected every company across the world. Additionally to that, we know that there is regulation pending on the 21st of June. So next Tuesday, Chuck Schumer is actually supposed to be releasing AI regulation proposals for the United States. And this basically just offers a new framework for how AI is going to work moving forward. I think generally the act is incredibly strong. There are some areas where it's not yet clear exactly what will be regulated and what won't be, and there's a lot of gray area. Um, Again, it's good that they're taking a first step. That first step is not necessarily the best informed, I think. Next, I read a story about Jude Bellingham's transfer, and I used to work in the sports industry, which is really crazy and really exciting. Um, Basically, it just talks about how Real Madrid, which is one of the top soccer clubs in Spain, how they go and they go through the entire transfer process and how they go and they find candidates. And they actually go and really manipulate the entire process from every level. It's fascinating to see, but this essentially dives into their strategy going into finding these top young players. It's a really interesting approach. And then next is this article in the Wall Street Journal, and it talks about how the global economy looks like it's out of sync. Basically, it talks about the fact that we have a decreasing dollar and increasing stocks. So the economy's in a really weird place or global economies are in a weird place because investors are doing well, but purchasing power has gone down. So everything is kind of happening in not in lockstep, but it's out of sync. So normally they kind of go together. Here they're kind of alternating separately. And then next, I read through the Microsoft 10Q. Um, Microsoft is, as we know, one of the, if not the biggest company in the world. The reason I'm so interested in it is because they've done a lot with AI recently. Namely, they have a strategic partnership or acquisition of OpenAI where they own, I think, up to 50% of the company for multiple hundreds of billions of dollars. And basically, Azure is now becoming the place to deploy AI systems. So I decided to take a little bit of a further look. First of all, they have a lot of products that everyone uses and that fit across the entire software stack. So everything except the chips itself, Microsoft produces. So if you think about it, you can have, from the laptop perspective, you can have a Surface Pro. You can write write a document in Word. You can send it in on Outlook. You can communicate that the document was sent with Teams. All these other things, and then those are inevitably developed with GitHub and then with VS Code on the software development side, deployed on Azure. They also can completely dominate the consumer market with Xbox. Yeah, so it's really interesting because the entire consumer software space is basically owned by Microsoft, and the enterprise software space is also basically owned by Microsoft. So software as a whole is really dominated by this one major company. One example of how they kind of executed on this was Slack. Who was it? Salesforce acquired Slack a year or two ago, and then what Microsoft did is they just bundled their Teams product in with every enterprise customer. So no one uses Slack anymore. It's cheaper to use Teams because you already bought it, essentially. And then reading into their strategy, it's really clear that they're looking to focus on building their cloud and AI strategy in particular. Why cloud and AI? Basically, public markets reward the highest multiple product at the time. Cloud has shown to be this kind of like solid business that can't really be disrupted because everyone needs servers. If you're building anything that goes onto the internet, you need to have a server infrastructure. Microsoft with Azure provides that server infrastructure. Basically, what we see is that the cloud market is actually growing at a growth rate of 18% per year. And then as companies build more large language models, any processing models, image models, whatever it may be, on the AI side, their cloud usage will continue to go up. It's basically like the reverse tragedy of the commons, where once you have a good that gets used a lot, it gets used a lot. And basically that's just the flywheel that keeps on going. They turbocharge us even further with their strategic partnership with OpenAI. Some things, just looking at the accounting numbers from it, their commercial cloud grew 32% to $92 billion in 2022. 32% growth is insane, especially at that big of a number. LinkedIn again grew 33%. Top line revenue grew 18% in 1 year. Like, this company is ridiculous. They pay 14% taxes, which is kind of a shame. And then, yeah, it's really interesting to kind of look into these numbers, and I found this to be a fascinating exercise that I'm really enjoying to do every week. Finally, the two lessons that I learned this week in my personal life was just send the email. There were a lot of situations this week where I was sitting in front of a written email with a subject line and everything, and just didn't want to send because of impending rejection or unsure of what the response would be. Every time I sent it, I got the result I wanted. And then next is more on the software development side, is that people don't want to add a lot of code to their site. This maybe applies elsewhere. People want to just have everything done for them on like where they don't see it, and then they just want to do as little as possible. So what I was doing is I was building a chatbot, and basically I got to the point where I needed to integrate it onto another website. My partner who I needed to integrate it with, they didn't want to add. I had this huge thing that they had to do, and they didn't want to do that. They just wanted the one-liner that made sense. So that was really interesting to how important that was for them. To get that from 27 lines of code down to one made all the difference, and it made them incredibly happy. Anyways, I've really been enjoying doing this series. I hope you've been enjoying listening to me and kind of going through this. I really appreciate your time. And I look forward to continue posting these.